As I mentioned just now, good morning and good afternoon, depending on where in the world you are. It could even be the middle of the night, who knows? Can you think back on the leaders that you've had in the past, in your own career? Is there perhaps one or two who stand head and shoulders above everybody else? I know I can certainly think of those ones which really inspired me, which really left some sort of legacy in the way that they actually drove the business forwards and encouraged and impassioned their employees. Don't you want to be considered in the same way by those you lead currently? I know I do. I really want to know that what I do helps people to grow and achieve things. So how can we really refine this? By the end of this webinar, you will be in a position to consider the legacy of your leadership, how you lead in history, and reflect on what you can do in order to be an extraordinary leader. My name is Zach Curtis. I'm Capability Director with the Innovation Beehive, and I'm joined today by Angela Massey, who is the People and Innovation Director with the Innovation Beehive. Hello, Angela.
Hello, Zach. Yes,
How
I'm
are you?
looking forward to this webinar. Yeah, I'm excited about this one, actually. It's a real,
Good.
yeah,
I'm excited too. This is the fifth webinar in the Leadership 4.0 series. And the webinar will take around, I think, around 45 minutes, Angela. Is that about right?
that's right, because we want to give you some reflection time at the end. Very
Absolutely.
important we do that.
Absolutely. So the purpose of this webinar is really, as you said, Angela, to reflect and consider our own positions based around some stimulus from us. But who are we, Angela? Perhaps we could move on to the next visual.
We could, if I could get my, it's worked. Marvelous.
So we are the Innovation Beehive. We are business consultants. We work around three different buckets: innovation, culture, and leadership. Now that could be, how can we make all of our leaders and our employees as innovative and as agile as possible? How can we create great cultures using leaders to make sure that we have wonderful places to work? And leadership generally, how can we make sure that those leaders are fully trained, fully inspired, and fully motivated in a whole variety of different areas? So Angela, if we just go to the next slide. And the main reason for just showing this slide is to demonstrate that we do have quite a broad experience of working with leaders from a vast array of different industries: public sector, private sector, retail, manufacturing, whatever you like. We have gathered plenty of stimulus and information from leaders to really understand what makes leaders tick. Now, why do we need to bother or even consider our leadership right now? Our behaviors, our skills, our impact on others? Well, we are, as we know, living and leading in very uncertain times. The pandemic consistently throws new challenges our way. The environment is causing some of our practices, our working practices, to change depending on the industry that we work in. And the way that we transact business in the world generally has changed beyond recognition from 10 years ago. I mean, looking back 10 years ago, who would have thought we'd be in the position and operating the way that we are right now, with the majority of business transactions being online? And over the last 14 months, particularly, many of us have become used to working remotely, communicating virtually, and even now, the wearing of masks for most of us has become normalized. I went into the bank the other day wearing a neck tube, sunglasses, and a hat, and no part of my face was visible.
And
no
you weren't arrested.
I wasn't arrested. And who'd have thought just 2 years ago that would even be possible? It was actually quite thrilling. So additionally, the march of digital and technological progress is very, very fast moving. That means that leaders need to pause every so often and consider how they drive business and people practically, emotionally, habitually, sustainably, healthily, while still having a positive legacy on their business, employees, and customers. Now, Angela, it could be that you have something to say about this.
I do, Zach. That's lucky, isn't it? I mean, we developed Leadership 4.0 to meet these disruptive times, to meet the, Industry 4.0 and all the change that was happening. And we developed it 18 months ago to meet the changes, the social changes, technological changes, the way everything we did was being disrupted. Little did we know how much more disruption was coming our way. And what has been very reassuring is that this Leadership 4.0 our definition of how leaders need to be in disruptive times has been tried and tested over the last 18 months and has come out shining. So I'm really pleased to be able to report that. And for those that haven't come across it before, what we did was we interviewed and looked at teams and leaders who were really thriving in disruptive times. And we found we could pull out sort of 5 principles. One was leading in head, which was very much about, your cognitive thinking and really sort of, getting through the ambiguity, distinguishing fake news from useful real news, and balancing that with leading in heart. So really bringing people with you, really being able to engage people and really get the best out of people. Leading in health was something we recognized then and has, shot up in importance since then. But what we found was that leaders who really role modeled health and really looked after their team's mental, physical health were able to cope with all the uncertainty that you get in disruptive times, and really, support each other. It was very much sort of team health, not just individual health. And importantly, this wasn't just a one-off, need to do this. It was something that they ingrained as something they did every day. And some of their core habits of these amazing leaders was that they were, constantly curious and always learning. So didn't think like they knew it all. They were constantly looking at how can I improve things. And then a key one, which was our sort of real light bulb moment in this, was that we realized that actually the really exceptional leaders had a real sense of purpose and knew why they were making a difference, and knew what they were leaving behind. They saw themselves as a part of something bigger. And this is what we're going to talk about today in our Leading in History.
Well, Angela, just while you were writing, we've actually had a question come in, which is an interesting one. So the question is, if there was one defining characteristic of great leadership that you could select throughout history and across all areas of human endeavor, what would that be? Now, what's curious to me about that question is it says what's one defining characteristic, but actually
that's a tough one, isn't it?
Be multiple based across all those 5 areas there. We've got some things coming in the chat here. So do you have anyone in mind, Angela, before we go to the chat?
One defining characteristic, I think if I had to pull out one, it would be a real sort of courage of conviction. That when you look at leaders throughout history, they, like things weren't easy for them. They had to overcome things, and quite often you'd have naysayers or people questioning what they did and obstacles in their way. But they really took courage from their purpose, if you like, and achieved what they did.
I am thinking of a person in particular when I think of a great leader. Is this something you want me to talk about later on, or
no? Tell us now.
Bring it up now. Because just when you were talking about head, heart, health, habit, and history, I was thinking of someone that's quite left field, and you wouldn't necessarily go to them first as a great leader. But I was thinking of Frank Sinatra. Now, the reason why I was thinking about Frank Sinatra is, thinking about head, he was very practical, he was very action-oriented, he was technically brilliant, highly organized, he recognized great opportunities. And he wasn't just a singer, he was also, he ran record labels, casinos, he painted, he owned restaurants, he ran radio shows, and so much more than that. But in terms of heart, he was a visionary. He was driving music away from the big bands of the 20s and 30s. He took orchestras and listeners on this journey with him, leading in heart. In habit, he did role model an awful lot of habits, not necessarily all of them positive, but he did role model things like hard work and dedicated hours, which at the time, in the 40s and 50s and 60s particularly, was the way of doing things. And he surrounded himself made the habit of surrounding himself with like-minded people who had those strengths that he was missing. Health, he was very good at role modeling his downtime, as was often quoted in the press. But in terms of history, leading in history that we're talking about today, his musical legacy continues to live on, and he continues to be a name recognized around the world. And I think it's his leadership qualities which have driven this. So if I was thinking of one word, it will probably be passion.
Okay, yeah.
for me, at least. We've also had something coming in that we'll be digging into this a bit more as we go along, but we've got someone in the chat saying that humility is a great single word to answer that question as well.
Yeah, it's a good one actually, and it's true. Like I said, you know, exceptional leaders don't feel like they know it all, and do show humility. Yeah, please do add your thoughts in the chat. But you talking just then, Zach, reminded me of one of my favourite leaders, which is Florence Nightingale. And growing up, quite different from Frank Sinatra, which is what we're going to talk about later. Just how different leaders can be. But growing up, you know, she was always projected as this lady with the lamp who, you know, just was kind of an emotional comfort to soldiers in the Crimean War.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, so you know, so there she was, you know, leading in heart and being a comfort and a succor to these soldiers. But then as I got older, I learned more about Florence Nightingale and realised that she was an amazing statistician. And I mean, there's a debate about whether she invented the early pie chart, but I think she was an early proponent of data visualization. And she realized, I don't know how much you know about Florence Nightingale, Zach, but she totally changed how hospitals are run and totally changed the nursing profession. And she realized so many more soldiers were coming into hospital and dying of diseases that they caught in hospital than were actually dying of their wounds.
Wow. And
she implemented, you know, hygiene right across the hospital and reduced deaths from something like 42% to 2% of soldiers coming into the hospital. And so, yeah, well, leading in health is obvious, and the habit she got her nurses to do was wash their hands. One of the biggest differences that she made was people washing their hands, which, you know, leading in history, we now expect that in hospitals, don't we? We expect hygiene. Yeah. Every time you wash your hands singing happy birthday, you can think of Florence Nightingale as one of our great leaders.
I will. As I'm sure we all will on this call.
As you're singing Frank Sinatra.
Exactly.
Okay, so Zach said we are talking about leading in history today, and history is very much about, you know, what legacy are you leaving behind? What difference are you going to make long term? So you might have wondered why we started with a starfish. Now, what has a starfish got to do with leadership? Well, when Joe and I were talking about, you know, leading in history and making a difference, and we were kind of playing around with what we talk about today on this webinar, I was reminded of this old story written by Lauren Eisel about a man who was walking along a beach, and he saw in the distance somebody picking something up and throwing it in the sea. And he walked a bit further, and this person was just picking things up and throwing them in the sea. And he thought, what on earth is that person doing? And he was wondering whether to actually shout at them for polluting the sea. But as he got closer, he realized it was a boy. And this boy was picking starfish up and throwing them in the sea. And he said, you know, what are you doing? And he said, well, the surf's up, the tide's going out. If these starfish lay stranded on this beach, they'll die. And the man said, yeah, but have you seen how long this beach is and just how many starfish there are lying there? And he said, you're not going to make much of a difference. And so the boy picked up a starfish, threw it into the ocean. And as it met the water, he said, just made a difference to that one. And I think that's just a beautiful story about how you can make a difference. You can't be responsible for the whole beach. You can't be responsible for the whole starship population. But one person can make a major difference. And this is what we really want to talk about today, is what's your starfish going to be? What difference are you going to make?
Lovely, Angela. I don't think anyone's ever said that in a leadership webinar before. What's your starfish?
What's your starfish? Well, you'll think about it now. And there'll be times when you go, that's my starfish. Now, I'm not sure these leaders ever thought about starfish much either. But what I wanted to talk about here was just how different leaders are. But you say what's one trait of leadership, and there are so many. You look at these leaders here, and they're so different. And we could have picked, so many different people we could have put on here. But these are just some of my favourite at the moment.
What would be interesting, Angela, is I'm sure you're going to explain some of the things on the screen here, but it'd be great if people listening in could type into the chat what they think some great traits are that are demonstrated by these leaders, or any leaders that you role model or that you enjoy.
And the question you asked at the beginning about leaders in your life, what traits have you admired in them, and what's inspired you? I'll just explain who these people are, just in case you're not sure. Top left is Albert Einstein, a leader in his field. Again, he overcome a lot of obstacles to test his, to test his hypotheses, to turn them into theories. I get told off by physicists if I call them theories before they're established. So you've got Albert Einstein, leader in his field. There's Malala, whose real purpose was about promoting education of girls. And as you know, she was shot in Afghanistan, is now studying in Oxford. The third one you might recognise from old £5 notes, Elizabeth Fry. She was campaigned for the abolition of slavery, for really, promoted well-being of the poor, but most remembered for prison reform, especially women's prisons. And those were the days when people were put on boats and sent to Australia. So she would go on prison ships and persuade captains to actually feed the women and children on board, so that the prisoners actually got there alive. That's Elizabeth Fry. And then you've got Marcus Rashford, who's making history at the moment, hopefully in the Euros, but also he's now more than a footballer. He's actually making sure vulnerable children are fed throughout the holidays. He's getting children reading again. You go on his Twitter feed and there's people posting up, oh, my child never reads, but they're reading your books. He's trying to get children reading. You've got Florence Nightingale, bottom left, which we've talked about. Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister of New Zealand. Greta Thunberg, and Martin Luther King, the bottom right there. So again, very different leaders. And we've got some comments coming in the chat.
We do, quite a lot. We've got, quite a wide variety of things. Perhaps if I just read them all out. And Angela, listen to see if there's something which you disagree with, which actually I'd be surprised if there was. We've got compassion, authenticity, more compassion, standing up for what you believe, courage, passion, empathy, humility, active listening, empowerment, trust, self-awareness, courage again, humility, is that again? That's again. Integrity. So quite a lot there. And I'm sure there's more besides.
We ask a lot of our leaders, don't we? We ask a lot, which is why purpose is important. And actually, Zach, yes, I agree with all of those. And we could probably, if we gave you time, you'd come up with 100 more, because there are so many qualities to great leaders, which is why we've had to compartmentalize them to help us get our heads around them. But one thing that these leaders had in common is their sense of purpose. Is that they really, they probably, as children, Greta's still a child, but as children think, I'm going to be a leader in X or Y. Leadership happened because things were happening around them, and some of them responded to disruption around them, and some of them actually caused a disruption because they wanted to make a change and make things different. And yeah, the key thing that all these had was a sense of purpose, and that's what we found in exceptional leaders, was their real clear sense of purpose. That evolved over time. They didn't all find it in their youth. Some found it when they were a lot older. But that's what we want to talk about now. And how do you find your sense of purpose? So just want to quickly share with you what else we found about the 4.0 leaders was, along with their strong sense of purpose, they were also clear on their values. So that they were, whatever they did, they kind of questioned, am I living according to my values? And when your purpose and values are really congruent, it can give you a lot of strength to know what to do and cut through all the ambiguity and the noise that's going on in disruptive times and say, yeah, this is the clear direction, this is where I'm heading, and this is how I'm going to get there. What was interesting, they also had a personal definition of success. So if you take someone like Marcus Rashford, he's got he's very clear what success means to him. And I pick him out because he's an illustration of there's not one definition of success. So when he's on the football pitch, winning the game, getting the goals is what's important to him in that moment. But it'll also be about, am I being a great team player? Am I supporting the whole team to achieve our goal together? Have I done what I could to make sure the team achieved what it needed to? And now he's also developing his personal definition of success is, what can I do, given the power that I now have and the influence I now have, to make sure vulnerable children do get fed, to make sure children get involved in reading, because that's what inspired me. And I want every child to feel that sort of inspiration. So again, your definition of success might be quite different from somebody else's. Your sense of purpose might be different from somebody else's. And people might not agree with you, but it's you knowing what's important to you and how you will define that success that's really key. And of course, what's important is that they then did something about it. They didn't just sit at home thinking, well, that's what ought to happen in the world. Is they actually took ownership of it and said, right, how do I make this vision happen? How do I make it so that I can make the difference that I want to make? So this is what we found. How do we help you to do that? Well, first of all, it's important to know why. Why do you need to know your why? Because what we found was people who are really clear on their why really help them get over all the disruption. So all the, you will get, I'm trying to avoid the word crap, but I'm going to have to say it so it's out of my head to avoid all the crap. How do you get through this time of disruption when you think, right, I know where we're going now, and then suddenly the rules all change? How do you get through this? So knowing your why really gives you the drive, really gives you the conviction that you need to get through what you need to get through.
Angela, I've got an interesting observation on that, because a couple of years ago, I'd never really considered my own why or my own purpose. I just moved from task to task to task and do whatever I need to do. We were working on our company purpose and trying to define our company purpose and how we were going to move forwards. And one of the exercises, it was being conducted from within the company by one of our directors. And one exercise was, what is it you bring to the company purpose? And I really struggled to answer it because I don't have a purpose myself. I hadn't defined it, at least. And so I wasn't really sure what I could bring, given that I didn't have that direction. I wanted a series of tasks to complete. I wasn't able to see how I could fit into it. And it was only when I started to review myself and what it was that made myself tick that I managed to fit in with that greater company purpose. I don't even know if what I said made any sense.
Interesting. No, it does. Because again, that helped you know what you were belonging to and gave you your focus. Yeah. Something else that I know helps people get their focus is saying, what am I not? What isn't my purpose? Which starfish won't I save? We're going to drag that, metaphor a bit further. Because again, knowing what you're not up for really helps preserve your energy for what is important to you.
Yes.
And like you say, what gets in the way is often just the day-to-day. We're so busy with the task of getting on with what we've got to get on with, especially in times of disruption, that we just don't have time to go, oh, why am I doing all this again? Yeah. So what we're going to do is share a couple of tools with you to help you deepen your sense of why and deepen your sense of purpose. And the first one is in the workbook that we've shared in previous webinars. If you haven't been on those or haven't downloaded that workbook yet, I think Zach, I can see him doing something.
I'm way ahead of you, Angela. I've just put the link where they can download, just provide their email address and download the workbook, and I can get it from the link that I've just put in the chat.
Brilliant, thank you. Now this workbook we developed some time ago just to help people get through what we call the 6-month wall. It was 6 months into lockdown. And into the you know, from the very first lockdown, and people were just getting to a point of how much longer is this going to be? People were just getting worn out. So we put this workbook together full of tools just to help people get through that 6-month wall. And this is one of the tools. Explore why you do what you do. So even if you haven't downloaded it yet, it's fine. You just need pen and paper, or however you make notes, or just make a mental note of why you do what you do. So what we want you to do is just kind of reflect, and we're going to focus on career for the moment, and just have some time to think back over your career. Zach and me, it's going to take us quite a long time. I don't know how old the people are on our webinar. It might take you a much shorter time, but think back over your career and think about why you chose the career that you did. Maybe you're not quite sure at the moment, or maybe you changed careers. But think back of your career and think about what were the best moments in your career. What were the real highlights of it? What we're going to do is, in the first box, is get you to think, what am I most proud of in my career? What did you do that you're most proud of?
And Angela, you want us to just make some notes of what we've done?
Make some notes now, or just relax and think about it. It's entirely up to our participants.
Okay.
And what's useful to think about there is, right, okay, so tap into what emotions were you feeling? Just enjoy feeling that emotion now, feeling proud. What other emotions were you feeling? Now, what does that tell you about why you do what you do? If these are the best moments in your career, what does that tell you? What does that tell you should be doing more of? Now just enjoy that positive feeling to recharge your battery right now. So when you first did this exercise, Zach,
yeah,
what insights did you get?
So, you know, that when I was saying earlier that I didn't really know what my own purpose was, actually this exercise helped me to get my own purpose. So what, I can't see it on the screen at the moment, Angela. What was the first box?
What you're most proud of.
What you're most proud of. So it was a company, a couple of companies ago in my career. It was a $3 billion company, so quite a big organization. And one of the things I was most proud of was something called the School of Excellence, which was much like you'd expect. It was a School of Excellence. But actually what we did was we put thousands of employees who were trained in small groups of 8 to 15 people through week-long sessions cross-culturally from around the world. So it was really about getting people together, but it was all about learning sales and customer service, essentially. Mm-hmm. But actually, the reason why I'm most proud of it is because it resulted in a very demonstrable increase in turnover and net profit of this $3 billion company. And I love the fact that I could, firstly, say that I helped increase the profit and turnover of this company. But also the fact that I had made some difference to people's lives. Now, the reason why I know that is because when I think about, the second box was emotions, wasn't it? When I think about emotions, at the time, the emotions were principally tiredness. I don't even know if that's an emotion, maybe exhaustion. We could call it exhaustion, because I was doing between 85 and 95 flights a year, which was a fair amount traveling around doing this stuff. But actually, afterwards, I had the chance to reflect, as we're trying to do with this webinar. And I had this immense feeling of pride of what we achieved. And the people who went through that program, they still contact me now, 7 years later, saying how the work I did with them changed their lives for the better, which I think is a positive leading in history moment. But what does it tell me about what I do? Well, I considered it over a period of time. And like I said, it helped me understand my why. I never really defined it, but I think it means that I want to know that my leadership, my direction, or my help for other people has positively somehow augmented someone's life. Oddly, I'm not as motivated by, for example, charity, which is the same sort of thing, helping others. But I am, which might achieve the same end. But I really want to know that I'm helping people to help themselves by giving them skills and perhaps a behavioral change which is sustainable. Teaching people how to fish.
That's interesting because mine was very, very similar, and I suppose because we're in similar roles. But it's good to do, isn't it? Just to reassure yourself that yes, I have chosen the right career. But I found that when I looked at when was I most proud is when people came up to me a year or two after coming on a workshop and saying, you changed my life. Just because of that listening exercise you did or whatever. They talk about how their relationships had improved, how they got on better with their children, how help them get a promotion or what have you. And like you say, you are helping people to be better versions of themselves, and like you say, learning how to fish. And sometimes it really helps to look back on those times to go, yeah, that's why we're doing this. And in a way, we've had the challenge of, right, how do we do this without the immediate payback that we used to get when you had people face to face, where you could actually see the difference people made, and they would come up to you afterwards and say, well, that was amazing. So yeah, we have to work out how do we get that payback now when we're doing it all virtually.
I hope everyone listening in has been reflecting on their own experiences and what has moved them in their career over the years. I'm sure they have.
And this is the tool to take away with you. Zach's put the link in the chat. So if you haven't downloaded it before, do and share it with your teams, because you get some really interesting discussions going within your teams with this tool. So I encourage you to do that. Okay, another one I want to share with you is the rocking chair exercise. I don't know how many of you have ever done this before, but it's one that is useful to do. Do it every 6 months or put it in your diary to do it every year. It's such a useful tool to do. And this could be, Zach, one of the best 10 minutes you ever spend in 2021.
Okay, you've got
Am I building it up enough?
You've got my attention. I'm focused. I'm ready.
So the rocking chair exercise, this is how it goes. It's what I'm going to invite you to do is imagine you're 80, 90 years old and you're looking back across your life. So what I want you to do is choose a rocking chair. Maybe you've got a favorite rocking chair already. Maybe you've got a favorite veranda already. But I just want you to find in your mind a rocking chair that's really comfortable and get yourselves nice and comfortable in that chair. And just start rocking it at whatever speed works for you. Maybe while you're there, you need an extra cushion. So just get yourselves really comfortable. And what I invite you to do is just close your eyes and look back. And whilst you're sitting in that chair, and as I say, you're just rocking it, whatever speed feels right for you. And imagine now you're, as I say, 80 or 90 years old. You're sitting in that chair. You're feeling really fulfilled and contented. Maybe the sun's going down, maybe it's a sunrise. You decide what time of day it is. You decide the temperature. Just make that moment absolutely perfect to you, because you have got a chance now to sit in that chair, feeling contented and satisfied with life. Never have you felt more contented, more fulfilled, because you know you've achieved everything you wanted to achieve in life. You visited all the places you wanted, met the people you wanted to meet, you did the things you wanted to do. So what I invite you to do now is look back along your life. And remember the special moments that happened. It could be to do with work, it could be to do with home. What were those special moments? What made you feel proud? What did you achieve? What were the important relationships in your life? Who were the people who touched you? Whose lives did you touch? Who were you important to? What did you do that changed their lives? Think of the times that made you smile, the times that made you laugh. How did you use your specific gifts, your specific and unique talents, things that only you could do? What is your legacy that you're leaving with others? What dreams did you fulfill along the way? And as you enjoy reliving them now, remembering what was important and meaningful to you, I'd like you to just find along your timeline the person you are now in 2021 and invite them onto your veranda. There's a spare chair there that they can sit in. So invite them to join you on this veranda. Give them their own rocking chair to sit in. And imagine them saying to you, I can see you now so fulfilled, so contented, so satisfied with life. What advice would you give me now in order for me to be that contented when I'm 90 years old? And I want you to give that advice to the 2021 you. What do they need to hear from you right now? And if you feel a need to write that down, do so. Or you might be surprised how you'll remember it in 10 minutes' time when the webinar's over, that it'll come to you and you'll be able to write it down then. But let that person back now to 2021 and look at the difference you've made from then, the advice that you gave them. What will they be doing differently today, this weekend, next week? What will they be thinking differently? How will they be behaving? What will they do? Who will they speak to make it happen? And enjoy coming back to who you are at 90 years old, sitting in that rocking chair, bringing all those wonderful memories that make you feel so fulfilled and so contented with life. And when you're ready, come back into the room and open your eyes. You're back in 2021. How was that, Zach?
It was interesting. I've not done something like that, Angela, before. It was good. I had to write down, I did have to stop and write down 3 phrases which popped into my head as advice I would give to myself, which was, it might not be the right advice for everybody. It was, because it's not making my life easier, but it's be bigger, do better, work smarter.
Oh, interesting.
And be more nomadic.
So you're not about making life easier in order to be more fulfilled. Your life isn't about being easy necessarily.
No, I'm afraid I want more.
Oh. When I do this sort of exercise, it's usually, oh, stop worrying about that. Because I tend to worry about more than I need to worry about. It's like in 30 years' time, that will seem so unimportant. Just put it into perspective. So it's interesting. Again, please share in the chat what insights you got. Now, we did do that exercise really a lot quicker than we'd normally do on a workshop or in a one-to-one session. But we are recording this webinar, so we will be able to access it again. But it's quite a simple one to do. But what I would advise is give yourself maybe 20 or 30 minutes. So you can do it if you have a 1 hour lunch break, you've still got time for a sandwich and a quick walk, and you can still do this exercise. So it's a really useful one to do, just to help you go, right, what is important and what do I need to do right now? And it's a good de-stressor as well, because it's just taking a moment to think, and being a nice rocking chair and a nice place, and spending a few moments feeling fulfilled and contented, because how often do we do that?
Not very often.
So, again, it's one you can share with your teams to do, and it can be really, really powerful for people, because they go, yeah, I know who I need to go and talk to. It tends to nudge people into doing what they've been putting off for a while. So I hope you enjoyed that. There's a couple of tools we've shared with you to help you work out what difference is it that you're going to make. And I'd just like to share a picture of the moon with you. Again, why am I sharing the moon with you? We're going from starfish to moons. Because again, I was reminded of the story of JFK in 1962 when he visited NASA. Do you know this story, Zach?
I don't think I do.
Well, the story goes that when he was visiting the space station at NASA, it wouldn't be a space station, would it? It'd be the HQ. He, chatting to people as he saw someone who had a broom in their hand. Was, clearly to anybody else a janitor, but being a friendly sort of person, he said, "So what do you do here?" And do you know what the janitor said? He said, "I'm helping to put a man on the moon." Now, whether this story is true or not, I just think it's wonderful, because that janitor saying, "I'm here helping put a man on the moon," shows that he was totally aligned to the purpose of why he was there. It's that he didn't say, "I'm here to clear up after people," or "I don't do anything important." He said, "No, I am part of the team that helps put a man on the moon." And I just wanted to leave this thought with people, because the more you can get your teams to align to a purpose that they can really believe in and really feel inspired by, will help you get through these disruptive times and the disruptive times to come. So whatever your purpose is, whether it's putting a man on the moon or something else, helping everyone to be aligned to it and knowing what their role is in helping make that happen can be really, really powerful. Zach?
I think, yeah, interesting, Angela. Thank you very much. There's some exercises there I would never, frankly, never think to do off my own bat. I would never, it's not the sort of thing I would normally get involved with, but I've really enjoyed doing them, and it has helped me try to understand my purpose a little bit more. And I think that for leaders generally now, just like we explored earlier, with the huge amount of changes going on in the world, the more we can experience leading in head, leading in heart, leading in health, leading in habit, leading in history, and really understanding what our legacy is based on that clear sense of purpose will really help us. And all the previous webinars detailing head, heart, health, and habit, and shortly history, are available on our YouTube channel for free. So just go ahead and view them. Just search for the Innovation Beehive. There's also the ability to take the Leadership 4.0 profile, which will help you understand exactly where you sit in head, heart, health, habit, and history. So you can try and work on those areas which you feel you might want to strengthen. And we've had a comment in based on the last exercise, Angela, from someone saying they're deeply grateful to be clear about what their 90-year-old self will be feeling. They feel content and fulfilled as a 50-year-old, but that certainly wasn't the case at all at 35. We're grateful for your comment, and we hope that you continue to be fulfilled as a 50-year-old. So I think it's useful if everyone can really keep that sense of purpose and keep reflecting on how they show up as leaders. The link to that scorecard, to that profile, is in the chat now. It is free to take, so do click on it and work through. Angela, is there something I haven't said about that particular profile which you developed?
No, just encourage people to do it, and then do it again over time, because it's more you know, the stronger you can be in all 5 of the principles, you know, the better a leader you will be. So they're ones to kind of just think of from time to time. Am I developing all 5 of these assets?
Lovely.
Okay, now we deliberately made this webinar 45 minutes long. Have we met the 45? We have. Blimey.
Exactly 45 minutes.
I'm impressed myself, because we really just want you to take some time, because we know what it's like is you put in an hour to do a webinar and you've probably got another meeting booked in at 12 o'clock, or you mentally said, right, this is what I need to do at 12 o'clock. So we just want you to have some time either to get back in the rocking chair or to do the you know, the explore exercise that we shared with you, and take some time to go, you know, what difference do I really want to make in life? What difference do I want to make to people? What difference do I want to make to the world? Because as we've said before, it's just something that will keep you going, and the more you align others to your purpose as well, they're there to support you to keep going through these disruptive times, because it's tough. It's tough for everyone, and it's particularly tough for leaders. So we wish you lots of luck. We hope you've enjoyed all 5 webinars. As Zach said, you can access them all on YouTube. We're recording this one. Are we, Zach?
We are.
So we'll share that one with you. And yeah, just take some time for yourself. And please just give us feedback on all 5 webinars. What have you enjoyed about them? Which ones have, you know, really given you things to think about? Yeah, we'd love to have your feedback.
Yep, we're available on email. We're available on all social media. We're pretty easy to find. So Angela Massey, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for the exercises you conducted. I certainly found them useful, and I'm sure everyone else did as well. So have an amazing rest of the week, everyone, and keep working on being the most amazing leaders possible using Leadership 4.0. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.